soulmates, we finally made it back to Friday. Casual Friday. I got on my pants, you can't see, but casual Friday.
I'm unbuttoned.
Yeah. Looking good. You see that, Aaron, producer? You see that? Welcome to it. Thanks so much for allowing us to be a part of the conversation for today. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. We're going to follow the latest with the Shanquella Robinson investigation and the Georgia coach accused of misconduct that is, with high school students. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte, plus the very important partnership Fantasia has with the American Red Cross and Jake Paul's confrontation with Floyd Mayweather. They're the stories that impact our people.
We got you when it comes to our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into the top conversation for today. Everybody's probably by now heard about this apology letter claiming to be from the Mexican drug cartel suspected of abducting 4 Americans and killing 2 of them. The Scorpions faction of the Gulf cartel apologized to locals and families of the 4 Americans. They say the events went against the cartel's rules, which include respecting the life of the innocent. They also say the members involved were turned over to authorities, but as you can probably see on social media comments, there's doubt the letter is actually from the cartel. This is still a pretty hot conversation across social media and in the news.
Yeah, I mean, it's unclear whether or not the letter is authentic or not. We heard from some sources that investigators believe that the letter is authentic. But the Mexican and U.S. law enforcement, they're not sure how sincere the letter is. I know I've never heard of a drug cartel sending an apology letter.
Right.
That seems really unusual to me, the type of stuff that you see in the movies, but you don't really see reported in real life.
There is a still pic of the perpetrators kind of lined up, sitting down with their hands behind their back, and they have these look on their faces like, yeah, this is what we sort of kind of been told to do. This is how we've been positioned to sort of kind of play into this apology. It did not feel sincere or authentic to me. I'm hoping that, our U.S. forces can continue to, uncover what has truly happened, who is truly responsible, that these families who we now have become familiar with across social media and news reports can get justice. It's just a bizarre story across the board, but it's very unfortunate and very sad, and we have to remember, even through all of this talk and rhetoric and conspiracies, that these family members are suffering.
And the thing that seems really interesting to me is that the cartels seem to govern themselves by like a code of conduct, right? Who would have thought that the drug cartels have codes of conduct? But it shouldn't be all that surprising, because there are American gangs that also have a code of conduct as well, and so. It's going to be interesting as the story continues to develop, learning more about how these drug cartels operate. It's been long reported that these Mexican drug cartels can be very dangerous. But
this is real. This is not the movies.
You're right.
This is real.
Far from it. Far from it. Prominent civil rights activists are urging President Joe Biden to intervene in the case of Shanquella Robinson, the 25-year-old who died under suspicious circumstances while on vacation in Cabo, Mexico, with 6 companions. Now, Robinson's family has retained 2 renowned civil rights lawyers who called on U.S. officials to extradite the person named on an arrest warrant issued by Mexican officials, or take over jurisdiction and prosecute the person in the U.S. Let's take a look.
Mexican authorities confirmed that they have completed their investigation. We've had the opportunity to review some of the packet, and it has been sent. The ball is clearly in the United States court. The State Department, the Department of Justice, the ball is in your court.
Yeah, let's hope something gets done. Joining us now is civil rights attorney Sue Ann Robinson to discuss how she and attorney Ben Crumb are pursuing justice for Shanquella Robinson and her family. Welcome back to the Black Report, Sue Ann. Appreciate you taking out some time for us today.
Of course, anytime.
So, Sue Ann, can you talk to us about what happened at the press conference in D.C. last week, and have you heard anything from the Biden administration since?
We were calling for a high level of diplomatic immunity. This is a transnational criminal case involving 2 different countries, 2 different criminal justice systems. And while our clients respect that and understand that, it's also been a very, very long time. and nothing is being done by U.S. government officials to intervene on behalf of Shanquella Robinson in this case. I did have the opportunity to go to Mexico on behalf of the family on a fact-finding mission to get answers, because they weren't getting any answers stateside. They were just being ping-ponged. U.S. authorities were saying, oh, you have to go to Mexico. And then we were calling Mexico and they were saying, no, it's the U.S. authorities. So they took it upon themselves to say, you know what, Sue Ann, we trust you as our advocate to be our boots on the ground and be our eyes on the ground. And then once I was there in the places where Shanquella was last, we went to the police station, we went to the Attorney General's office, the medical examiner's office. We were able to confirm some things, which include that the Mexican authorities have completed their investigation and turned it over to U.S. authorities, the FBI and Interpol, which is protocol in an extradition case. They have to turn over their investigative packet, and then the State Department, the diplomatic authority in the U.S. has to step in to either extradite or take jurisdiction or ask for concurrent jurisdiction, which is what the U.S. did in the case of the U.S. citizens that were kidnapped. They swiftly got concurrent jurisdiction with Mexico. The FBI was able to put out a reward of $50,000 for anybody who gave information. But that case obviously is different substantively from Shanquella's case where she was murdered. But it does show that the U.S. law enforcement agencies can get concurrent jurisdiction with Mexican law enforcement agencies swiftly. It can be done quickly. And that's really what we need in this case.
Yeah, so I feel like extradition efforts have kind of fallen silent when this case started to kind of open up. I remember reading reports that maybe one of those suspects was on their way to being extradited back to Mexico. Is there a specific status of that extradition or any of them as far as who would be considered suspects that you know of is happening, as we speak?
The issue is for extradition to be done, the protocol under the treaty is that Mexico is required to complete an investigation and then turn over their investigative documents. The normal type of extradition that we're used to is if somebody from Mexico did a crime in Mexico and then fled to the United States, or somebody robs a bank in the United States and flees to Mexico, then it's somewhat easier and more traditional extradition to be sending someone back to their home country. But in this case, the extradition is going to require U.S. authorities to hand over U.S. citizens to Mexican authorities. And although it is unusual, there is still a protocol for that. Or U.S. authorities can do exactly what they did in the kidnapping case, which is request concurrent jurisdiction with Mexican authorities and effectuate their own investigation of the case.
You and several other civil rights attorneys, including Ben Crump, are preparing documents on behalf of the family. Can you tell us the purpose of these documents? How are you all looking to use these documents to bring about justice?
Well, myself and Ben Crump have authored a letter to President Biden and the Secretary of State. Essentially, the letter is calling for a high level of diplomatic intervention, explaining the purpose of us visiting DC, explaining the things that we spoke about in the press conference in detail so that there isn't later any room for the administration to say they were unaware of the case, they were unaware that their intervention was needed, requested, and we're also going to include the documents that we received from Mexican authorities. So even though our position is that they should already have these documents, we're making sure that there's no room for the U.S. administration to say they're not prepared to deal or handle with this. The issue really to me is, at the end of the day, when there's press briefings daily, Shanquella Robinson's name should be brought up every single day in a press briefing because she is a U.S. citizen that was murdered abroad. So she shouldn't be receiving any different treatment than any other U.S. citizen that was murdered abroad. So I think that the administration is failing her also in that way. but we're focusing on going directly to the highest authority that we can and saying this diplomatic intervention is necessary, and it's necessary now. And our press conference in DC is just, the family is asking for the public and people who are supporters of their family to do the same, to contact the State Department, to contact their representatives and say, why isn't the U.S. intervening in this case on behalf of Shanquella Robinson? Why isn't it being prioritized? It needs to be prioritized.
Yeah, we have about a minute left, but before we wrap up our time with you today, let's tap into Breonna Taylor's case, which of course sparked a DOJ investigation into the Louisville Police Department. Can we get your thoughts on the report that Attorney General Garland Merrick just released? Any thoughts on that, or any thoughts surrounding this particular case that's still trying to be brought to justice as well?
Right. The Attorney General's DOJ report basically found that the policing in Louisville is discriminatory towards Black people. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, first reading it, well, water is wet. That's why there were so many demonstrations. That's what the people have been saying. That's what we've been saying. Mm-hmm. So it's great that we have these reports. But the real question is, what is next? Are we going to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? Is something actually going to be done, mm-hmm. as opposed to just continuously gaslighting Black Americans, minority communities, saying you're being discriminated against and you're being abused by modern day policing? We know that. They've done the similar reports in Ferguson, similar reports in Baltimore. So now the next question is, what is going to be done?
Our thanks to civil rights attorney Sue Ann Robinson. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And we really look forward to having you back on for more updates as you continue to pursue justice for Shanquella Robinson.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed. With Sue Ann Robinson on the case, partnered with Ben Crump, mm-hmm. and that whole unit of folks pushing for more to be done in this case. My hope is that the U.S. will continue to do their part in making sure that that family has justice. It's been too long already. That's right. Very long and very unusual circumstances, right? Mm-hmm. And so we know that there's an FBI investigation that is currently happening now. Right. But clearly, according to Sue Ann Robinson and Ben Crump and others, it doesn't feel like the government is doing nearly enough to support the family of Shanquella Robinson. All right, we're going to move on here to New Jersey as Senator Cory Booker, one of our favorites, introduced a package of bills to improve working conditions for incarcerated people. Now, he believes the bills will address inhumane prison labor conditions and unfair labor policies in U.S. prisons. Booker's proposals would also protect incarcerated individuals' civil rights, prevent them from being victims of discriminatory practices, and ensure they are paid a livable wage. They have support from organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union and National Employment Law Project. Yeah, this is a big deal. This could be life-changing legislation for folks that are incarcerated. And, we want to remind folks that, they're not just, these random people. These are members of our family, members of our community that are incarcerated. We've heard people, say very often that, inside the prisons, it's a very, it can be a very violent experience for folks. And so what's so interesting about what Cory Booker's doing is that this legislation would ensure that incarcerated individuals are deemed employees and would require that correctional facilities routinely report workplace safety and labor conditions. It's a pretty creative way to go about creating the kinds of reforms that folks have been pushing for decades inside our prisons across America. And so, we talk about criminal justice reform, we talk a good game, but Cory Booker is putting his legislation where his mouth is. Indeed. From New Jersey to Texas, where a Texas judge has delayed the execution of death row inmate Andre Thomas, whose attorneys say that he gouged out both of his eyes due to severe mental illness. Yikes. Thomas was set to be executed on April 5th for fatally stabbing his estranged wife and 2 young children, but his lawyers requested additional time to review his competency. The judge's order gives Thomas's attorneys until July 5th to file their motion asking that his competency be reviewed before his execution can proceed. More than 100 faith leaders and others had earlier asked Governor Greg Abbott to stop the execution. I'm thinking that if he went about self-mutilation and hurting himself in that manner, that there might be something mentally going on with him. You think? And hopefully the proper procedures to go about properly handling this situation with that in mind will go forth, and the outcome that's needed will happen. That is such a gruesome story to even talk about. My goodness.
I mean, you got to wonder though, if the man gouged his eyes out. Right? Why still move forward with an execution? You can't convince me that a man who has gouged his eyes out is in his right mind. Poses any sort of risk to folks within the prison, or elsewhere, right? And so I just think it's strange that they're going to move forward or looking to move forward with this execution when this guy has already severely disabled himself.
Let's go to California now, where a man who spent 38 years in prison for a 1983 robbery, homicide, and sexual assault he did not commit has had his conviction finally overturned. His name is Maurice Hastings. He was sentenced to life in prison for the abduction, rape, and murder of a woman despite lack of physical evidence. How many times have we heard this? Now, the LA County District Attorney's Office has issued an apology stating that they are, quote, very sorry for the great injustice that my office and the criminal justice system perpetuated upon you. That's the end of that quote. Hastings has expressed his gratitude for the ruling and is participating in an entrepreneurship program and volunteering to help the homeless. Show me the money. Me the money. Appreciate that apology.
That's right.
But honey, you know how we do here in America when we're done wrong.
That's right.
Money talks, BS walks.
And not just money for him, but money for his family.
That's right.
His family, went a very long time without having
83.
him in their lives.
1983.
Right? LA County District Attorney, y'all need more than just an apology.
Listen,
I'm just saying.
And they know they better start counting up.
That's right. Well, a high school girls basketball coach in South Georgia has been arrested and charged with sex crimes involving his students. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation was requested to investigate allegations of inappropriate sexual contact and advances on students by the coach, Coach Derek Harris. Harris has been charged with 1 count of enticing a child for indecent purposes, 1 count of sexual assault by persons with supervisory authority, and 1 count of sexual battery, and 2 counts of solicitation of sodomy. The GBI's investigation is ongoing. Harris was booked in the Mitchell County Jail.
Yeah, if in fact, I know he has to go through, due process, but if in fact he is found guilty, you got to throw him up under, the prison. Look, it's getting to the point where, you just can't trust our young people with anyone. I mean, this is a basketball coach, a pillar of the community, someone, that the parents look to be almost parent-like in a sense. You spend a lot of time with coaches and teammates and things like that, and to be betrayed in that way, and for it to be so damning and damaging to those young people who he allegedly may have molested, it is heartbreaking. But at the same time, if in fact he's guilty, then let justice do what it needs to do.
And even if you do trust, you got to trust and verify. You got to trust and verify, and who knows how many young people were impacted by his behavior. But you're right. This kind of behavior, it erodes the trust that so many parents have in the kids that are coaching. The folks that are coaching their kids. All
right, hip hop star, rise to fame here, Glorilla, some of you may be familiar with. She had a concert that turned into a stampede. This happened in Rochester, New York last weekend. It has unfortunately claimed the life of a 3rd victim. Now, police say the 35-year-old woman died Wednesday night after being hospitalized since Sunday. 2 other women died and several were injured after people rushed the doors of the venue thinking they heard gunfire. The city of Rochester refused the venue's entertainment license yesterday. They're not going to renew that. Yesterday, effectively shutting down while its investigation continues.
I mean, just terrible. I mean, to hear that 1 person, was the victim of that stampede, and then 2 people, and now a 3rd person.
Yeah, I have a brother who helps run a radio station there, and the reports, according to what he was hearing from witnesses there, Glorilla was actually off the stage. There was some kind of confetti that was being released, and by the release of this confetti, it sounded like gunshots. So that started the panic stampede. And in addition to that, there was some kind of squirmage, some kind of disturbance going on at a door. People were trying to push their way through. According to the reports from people there was some pepper spray that was released that added to the chaos and the confusion with the sound of the confetti. And herein lies the story. It's very unfortunate. I don't think that venue will see the light of day. A lot of folks were saying that it was always viewed as like a quote unquote death trap, if you will, in regards to the way it's structured and maybe managed and handled. So just an unfortunate situation.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Well, a black woman's year-long efforts to diversify country music, are finally being recognized.
Nice.
Frankie Stanton started the Black Country Music Association back in 1997, which showcased black artists and their ability to perform country music. Now, despite recording the performances and getting displays in the Country Music Hall of Fame, Frankie thought her work was forgotten, but now she sees new black artists playing country music and a record label looking to sign more artists of color. Frankie says she stands in the gap for those who never got the chance, and she's excited about what's happening now.
Very cool. Listen, there's a whole slew of new, young, black, up-and-coming country singers, and it's just really exciting to see for sure.
That's right.
Speaking of those singers, coming up, Fantasia joins forces with a life-saving organization to combat a hidden illness affecting millions.
That's right. We'll tell you all about how their partnership is making a difference. Stay tuned to Fox Soul's Black Report. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, R&B superstar Fantasia is teaming up with the American Red Cross to help encourage more of us to donate blood.
This week, she shared to her over 5 million followers on Instagram the importance of giving blood. She even vlogged the entire experience, saying she wanted to spread awareness because of the unique ability many black people have to help patients battling sickle cell disease. 1 in 3 African Americans are a match for people with sickle cell.
It's great work, great work. You know, I'm O negative and I have a rare blood type, and you know, American Red Cross, they call me all the time. And so I'm glad I could take a break, and Fantasia, you know, could handle the job.
Yeah, I think I'm A negative, which is a little rare as well.
Yeah.
I'm a little on the anemic side, so I can't really give as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
But great effort, and I just love to see how her career continues to flourish and she takes it to next levels. All right, the largest insulin manufacturer in the U.S., Eli Lilly, has capped out-of-pocket costs for insulin at $35 per month, bringing some relief to some of you soulmates, right? However, structural inequities contribute to poorer health outcomes for Black Americans with diabetes. Black Americans have higher rates of diabetes. They struggle to pay for the drug and often get misdiagnosed. Now, the CDC reports that Black Americans may be overdiagnosed for pre or type 2 diabetes. Patients may also struggle to afford insulin, leading to rationing and skipped doses. That can't be good. Now, some patients have become advocates for their own health and encourage open conversations between patients and doctors.
This is a really big deal for our community. You know, 12% of black folks are living with diabetes.
We got sugar. We got the sugar. And we know that out-of-pocket costs have been skyrocketing over recent years. Some people pay more than $1,000 a month in out-of-pocket costs just for their insulin. Right.
This is medication that they need, and so you know, Eli Lilly, you know, is doing us a bunch of good and saving us a bunch of cash. And I hope there are other drug manufacturers that follow suit.
That will follow suit as well.
Well, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against a Louisiana chemical company in hopes to curb the spread of harmful compounds to black residents in the area. Now, the lawsuit claims that synthetic rubber products made by a company called Deneca Performance in Reserve, Louisiana, is the cause of the problem, and that the factory located in LaPlace, Louisiana, presents a cancer risk to the nearby communities, which are majority black. Now, reports show that Deneca has reduced its toxic emissions over time, but recently caught the attention of the EPA late last year.
Well, what's taking so long? I mean, this is quite obvious. I love your water is wet, and Miss Sue Ann use it the same thing. Look, every time we turn around as Black Americans, there's just threats at every angle, every degree, and it can get very exhausting trying to protect and stay aware and stay ahead of the reports and what to do and what not to do. Can we all just live and live healthy? We want the same, healthy, vibrant, living conditions and accessibility that our other fellow Americans have. And I don't know why that continues to, well, I know why, but the fight of that being, more so of a right than a privilege is just, it's tiring.
And this is a major environmental justice issue.
A privilege and a right,
that the Biden administration has moved on this. And there's something called Cancer Alley. So from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, there's this 85-mile stretch along the Mississippi River, where cancer rates, are elevated. And, guess who lives along that 85-mile stretch,
Soulmates.
Right? And so, this is a part of what environmental justice can look like, calling companies like this out, and making them have to correct where they're creating harm. I mean, there's an elementary school, I think, just a few miles away from this facility, right? And so it's okay for, Black kids, to grow up in a neighborhood where we already know they have an elevated risk for cancer, right? And the company's allowed to continue to make, swimsuits and wetsuits, and that's fine.
It's a question of humanity. And if they don't care, as they should, we just have to continue to push to make them care.
That's right.
All right. According to the Anti-Defamation League, the United States saw its highest ever distribution of white supremacist propaganda last year, jumping 38%. 3 white supremacist groups, Patriot Front, Goyim Defense League, and White Lives Matter, you heard me, were responsible for 93% of this year's activity, which includes banners, posters, and events. The spikes come as national security leaders have repeatedly warned that white supremacists, extremists are an increasingly large share of the domestic violent extremists in the U.S., you don't say.
Right, don't take our word for it. This is the FBI director
putting it out there.
Has said that racially motivated extremism poses a significant risk to the United States. And so, for the folks that, are all about stopping wokeness, right? Well, just know that comes with consequences. And one of those consequences, is really leaving us more vulnerable, leaving our national security more vulnerable to these folks that mean us harm right here at home.
Be careful. Don't use the word woke. Be very careful. We know what it means.
We know what it means.
And what it has always meant.
And we've known what it's always been. You're right.
Like,
you're right. Well, still ahead. Remember the blinged out bishop who was robbed during church? Y'all remember that?
What? We have an update on him next. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. There he is.
Take a look at it now.
Bling, bling. He ain't blinging right there.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, a pastor from North Carolina, Darren Carmen, who spent 8 years in prison for a robbery he didn't commit, has filed a federal lawsuit against the small town of Winterville and 2 of its police officers. The suit alleges that the officers fabricated evidence and withheld information that would have cleared his name. Now, Carmen seeks unspecified compensatory and punitive damages, stating he suffered ongoing physical pain, psychological and emotional damage, and loss of quality of life. Now, although he has since become a pastor, founded nonprofits, and won numerous honors, Carmen stated that he still does not feel justice.
Well, he's doing what most would expect him to do. 8 years. The guy we just talked about in California, 30 years erased, if you will. North Carolina needs to call California and help him file his suit as well. Listen, you can't give these men, these people who've been wrongly accused and have served all this time, you can't give it back to them. The best you can do is compensate them heftily. In hopes that will somehow help them, make good on all of this time.
And when I hear stories like this, I think of the folks that were perhaps wrongly convicted and, ended up getting killed in prison or ended up facing the death penalty, right? And, that's part of the reason why, I personally don't believe in the death penalty because, there are too many of these cases, right? And when we look at the complexion of the people that are impacted, by, being, wrongfully accused or wrongfully incarcerated, I don't think we can say with 100% confidence that when we, make the decision to execute somebody, that we can do so beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and time is time. I think with the 8 years, maybe he'll be able to make that up much better than 30 years. Could you imagine all of the technology, all of the advancements? Our lives were just so different 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, give that man as much money as he wants and needs to, reclaim his time.
Money and health benefits, because
All
that's going to be
of
a
it.
lot of therapy, to process
All of
that.
it. To New York now, where Bishop Lamar Whitehead, previously known for being robbed on a live stream, is now facing fraud charges. Sources say that Whitehead told a bank his business had $2 million when it had less than $10 in the account. Court documents claim the bank account allegedly belonging to the Anointed Management Services LLC didn't exist. This is not the first time Whitehead has faced legal issues, as he was previously arrested back in 2020 for embezzlement. Whitehead leads the Congregation of Leaders of Tomorrow International Ministries in Brooklyn and preaches about the prosperity gospel.
He preaches about what?
Prosperity.
Like $10 in prosperity, or like?
Amen.
I mean,
faulty, fake.
I'm just,
prosperity.
Dude had $10
in an account where he said he had $2 million. But what the congregants, and I'm not going to blame people for believing what they believe and following who they want to follow. But, back when this story broke, when he was, robbed live, on live, comments, the streets get to talking, and they say he's just been like a fraud and robbing people for a long time. So like, at what point do some of these congregants don't see this, don't understand that? It's just, and I feel bad for them because according to what you've heard in the comments and the reports, their money has been taken and caught up in that situation.
Yeah, and I also don't like the fact that it plays into a narrative about pastors, particularly black pastors, sort of pimping their congregants, right? I don't think the Lord is pleased by that. Just saying.
Oh, well, that's up to the Lord.
This month, we are honoring her story for Today in Black History. Have you heard of the 6888? Yeah, the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion was the only all-black, all-female battalion to serve overseas during World War II.
Just an amazing group of women who assisted soldiers on the front lines with a lifeline to their families back home, sorting through, check it, 17 million pieces of mail. Their legacy lives on through exhibits, books, documentaries, and we talked about this a while ago, a forthcoming Netflix film starring Kerry Washington and Oprah Winfrey. I don't think they had been cast yet when we first talked about it. Now, the 6888 Battalion will also receive a Congressional Gold Medal of Honor this year.
That's incredible.
It is.
I mean, I just love the fact that there's these hidden figures, that are not just among us, but these hidden figures in our history that we get to make more visible and we get to celebrate, right? And at a time where we see, our black history in question, where we see efforts to undermine our history, I think it's a beautiful thing that there are some big names in Hollywood that are putting their name on a film like this and pushing it out to the masses, because we've got to know these stories. 17
million letters. Can you imagine the feat? And they were probably, I'm guessing here, motivated by, keeping these families connected to their loved ones who were serving our country, how they got treated. We talk about the plight of the black soldier all the time. That is just a dedication beyond, signing up to enlist. Those letters were probably contained, lots of love letters. Hey, I'm okay. I'm praying for you. And probably kept a lot of those soldiers encouraged and uplifted during their time of service and during their leave. So it's just a wonderful act of kindness, really an act of love. I can't wait for Kerry and Oprah to bring that story to us for sure.
Yeah. Well, up next, Jay Morant's absence from Memphis Grizzlies. For the Memphis Grizzlies, it continues.
Yeah, we're going to tell you more about that extended leave and the NBA's investigation. You are watching your Friday edition of Fox Soul's Bulletin.
Welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Time now for our celebrity and entertainment headlines.
And on Fridays, we like to have a little bit more fun with it, with these stories. So here to join in on the conversation is one of the most respected comedians in the game, Jamal Doman, the host of the Dope Dealers podcast. As we say here in Detroit, what up, though? How you doing, honey?
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get into some of these headlines, Jamal.
Yeah, well, Memphis Grizzlies guard Jay Morant will be away from the team for at least 4 more games.
But he won't face charges in Colorado related to the live stream video in which he appeared to be displaying a gun. That means Morant will miss games at least through March 15th. The NBA says it's also looking into the matter, but no sanctions have been announced at this time. What you say? What you say, Jamal?
Listen, he's not charged with being with a crime, but he should be charged for being an idiot. Come on, John Morant. Come on, man. You got a $200 million contract.
Yeah.
You come from a good family. You went to a good school. Why are you trying to be a gangster? See, this is why I like my point guards light skinned like Steph Curry. Because Steph, you never get this from. This my point. Listen, John Morant, the only thing you should be shooting is 3-pointers and lead your team to the NBA Finals. Please stop with this nonsense, man.
But on the other side, but you got an OG getting into the game when it comes to guns. The Sean Kemp story surprised me, and he was arrested with connection to a drive-by, released, no charges. What you think about? You got this young cat, being tough, but we know Sean Kemp from back in the day. He was gangster on the court.
That's what I'm saying. When I saw that story, I'm like, it's Sean Kemp. I'm not surprised. Like,
exactly.
Sean was doing drive-bys on the NBA court.
He was nuts back in the day. I remember for our old school.
Ask Dennis Rodman about Sean Kemp.
Right, for our old school soulmates. All right, moving on here, Jamal. After conquering primetime, Anthony Anderson and Cedric the Entertainer have their sights on prime beef and chicken and pork and everything else.
The actors are partnering to launch their own barbecue label, AC Barbecue, and will document their quest to perfect the skill of the grill on the new A&E Network series Kings of BBQ. The series, which is still being developed under the working title, will follow the pals as they travel the country looking for advice and techniques from barbecue experts. The
10-episode unscripted series will air on A&E. It's going to happen later on this year, Jamal.
Jamal, you think it's going to be a finger-looking good series?
Absolutely, yes, man. Come on, man. This is dope, man, because I think black barbecue, the grillers, we don't get the exposure, man. You guys know every hood got that black barbecue that just, you bite your fingers off eating them ribs or eating them hot dogs. Like, come on, man. So this is cool, man. And listen, Cedric is from St. Louis. Anthony Anderson's from Compton. You know they know good
But
barbecue.
Anthony Anderson look like he don't eat ribs no more. Anthony Anderson looks like he don't even touch a rib anymore. He's so slim and slender now.
He eats vegan ribs.
Yeah, vegan. That's good.
What is vegan ribs? Come on, man. Don't disrespect me.
A lot of tofu.
Yeah.
Listen, I got an Uncle Jero. He's mean on that grill, so they need to get him. We had an Amber Alert girl on. They need to get him on the. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
They need to get him on the grill.
Yeah.
I got an Uncle Jero. They need to get him. I'm gonna talk. I know Sad. Sad is my homie. I'm gonna call him up and get my Uncle Jero on that show, man. We got to get it popping.
Now, Sad looked like he could do something. Anthony used to look like he could do something. I don't know.
Cedric ain't eating no vegan ribs. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. not my brother from St. Louis. No, they don't do that in St. Louis.
That's right.
Well, boxer Jake Paul was seen getting into an altercation with Floyd Mayweather on the streets of Miami this week.
So there's a video that's been circulating across social media where Mayweather and his entourage, they're confronting Paul outside of Miami-Dade Arena after they both attended the Miami Heat Cleveland Cavaliers game.
Now, while both were talking smack at each other, Paul ended up running away from the situation. I might too. It also appeared someone from Mayweather's team tried to grab Paul, but Paul ended up posting on his Twitter account calling out Mayweather to fight him solo instead of bringing a crew with him. Jamal,
I don't know about this one.
This is our own. This is our own. What would you do, Jamal? What would you do?
I would still be running. I would still be running. Let me tell you something, man. Have you Mayweather road? You see them big guys be with him? Listen, I ain't got no problem with Jake Paul running. I would still be running myself, man. Listen, man. I do not mess with Floyd Mayweather and his entourage, man. And they in Miami. What are you fighting for? You in Miami. It's South Beach. Y'all should be chilling, man. Yeah. But you know what it is? The key was what you said. They was at a Miami Heat Cleveland Cavaliers game. Both of them teams are horrible. I'd rather go to a Pistons game. I'd rather watch a Pistons game.
Pistons, we rebuilding. Watch it now. Watch it.
You're going to need a personal escort to the parking lot if we agree with you. I don't know about that.
Hey, so listen here, Jamal. Many celebrities are coming to the defense of Chris Rock after many say, especially comedians like yourself, say Rock used his new special just to vent about the Oscars slap.
Now, while all the reviews weren't in his favor, the Madagascar actor does have several famous friends in his corner. Folks like D.L. Hughley, who said it was brilliantly executed. D.L. is showing his support online, in addition to friends of our show, like Lonnie Love, who says that if Chris Rock was Chris Evans, the Oscars wouldn't have even aired the slap.
Gotta love Lonnie Love. She keeps it real. Your thoughts, Jamal?
Jamal, break the tie, Jamal. Where do you fall?
I want to put the disclaimer out there that I'm from Philly, and Will Smith is kind of like my family. I hang out with him a lot, so I want to put the disclaimer out there. But also, Chris Rock is my comedy brother. Listen, Will was wrong. I've said this for the last year. He was wrong. He was wrong. And Will has admitted he was wrong. He apologized about it. He's done everything I think you're supposed to do. You should do to get good graces. But listen, Saturday was Chris slap back. That was Chris getting off his chest. That was him slapping back. I have no issue with that. I have no issue with Chris getting that off his chest. I'm glad that he finally got off his chest. And hopefully it's over, man. Hopefully they can both move on. It was a sad situation. Will feels awful about it. I've been around him. I've heard him say it. He feels awful about that night. Chris, I feel awful for him. He got slapped in front of billions of people. This man has kids. He has a mother. He has a family that loves him. I think Saturday night was Chris slap back, and hopefully he finally got it off his chest. He feels good about it. I don't have no issue with what he did on Saturday night, man. To me, it's comedy. Yeah. Everybody came there. They wanted to hear what he had to say about the situation, and he got it off his chest. He's been holding this in for a year. You got to understand, you've been holding something in for a year.
He played it smart, though. Because Netflix got a lot of money, and he got paid for talking about it, and everybody
was it 20 or 40
wanted to hear about what he had to say.
40, but it could have been 20.
Yeah, I heard 20, then I heard 40, and so I said, well, that's a lot of money.
A lot. 20 or 40 is more than any of us got together.
It's more than the $10 that Pastor had in his account earlier.
Listen, you could slap me for $200.
Come on now. $250. Jamal, talk a little bit about what you got going on. I hear you're running up and down the country with Michael Blackston and some other fellow comedians. Talk a little bit about what you got on your plate.
Yeah, well, the Dope Dealers podcast, that's my podcast. We drop every Thursday. So yesterday we dropped our new episode. So check that out. We on all podcast outlets, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, just YouTube. And actually yesterday's episode was about the Chris Rock special, Selective Outrage. So check that out. I'm touring. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jamal Doman, JamalDoman. I'm a fool on social media. Don't take anything I say personal, man. And I'm just out there. Got a lot of things cooking in the oven, man. Just follow me on Instagram, and you'll see about it.
And Jamal, I'm peeping that artwork. We nosy when we get into people's homes and stuff. Ever since the pandemic, it's like, what you got over? What's that? I love that artwork over there. I see you.
You see that one?
I do.
You want to be? I got that for free. I was driving down the street like 2 miles away from my apartment, and somebody had put that out. I guess they had moved out, and they just left it out on. Man, I parked my car and it couldn't fit in my truck, so I walked that thing a mile to my apartment.
It looks good. Both of them look good. She's so nosy.
Hey, man, one man's trash is one man's gold.
Come on, baby.
Right.
You better tell it.
That's right.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Lots of fun. We'll have to do this again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Be safe out there on that road and tell all your folks we said hey.
Absolutely. Have a great week.
You too. You too.
Still ahead, the incredible story of a 12-year-old black entrepreneur making waves in Arizona.
Yeah, we're going to tell you all about his game-changing grant from a city official. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We return shortly after the break.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Don't forget to set your clocks back 1 hour tomorrow as daylight savings time comes to an end at 2 a.m. And not everyone is happy about that extra hour of sleep. I can't imagine who's not happy.
Who's not happy? This folks here, the Final Light Bulb Company said they did a survey and found that 49% of people say they hate when the clocks go back. 2/3 say it actually makes them sleepier since it starts getting darker earlier.
Yeah, the survey also found the top things that we do once it starts getting dark earlier that include watching more TV, so more Fox Soul Black Report for all y'all, spending more time on the internet, decorating our houses, and reading more books.
So then you would think that if you're springing ahead, you would enjoy that because it gets darker later. And I don't understand why you don't like the extra hour of sleep. Who wouldn't want an extra hour of sleep? I think and it's so, like, circadian rhythms is so interesting because I can feel the difference energetically when clocks go back and when they go up. And nowadays you don't even have to think about it. Everything is so digital, except for maybe your microwave and your oven. But you don't really have to set them back anymore. Back in the day, it used to be like,
I remember, you gotta get in there and
so you won't be late for church because it's like Saturday at 2 a.m. becomes Sunday. It's confusing, but you don't really have to worry about it anymore with cell phones.
But I wonder how much of this has to do with whether or not you're a morning person or more nocturnal.
I'm neither.
And for the people that are morning people, right? Do they appreciate, you know, the extra hour of sleep, or does it get in the way, you know, of them getting their morning started? And so, you know, I don't know if that's revealed in the survey, but that's what came to mind when I read the story.
Back in the day when I used to host the clubs, we got an extra hour to party and pop bottles. All right, time now.
Pop what?
Pop bottles. It's early 2000s, you know.
Yeah. I remember.
Those were the days. Time now for our favorite part of the show, Black Excellence. And we want to introduce you to a 12-year-old who's making waves in the clothing industry.
That's right. King Manuni is the founder and CEO of We Kings, bro, an inspirational apparel line that empowers young men to build a life and future that they're proud of. Well, he's making headlines this week after the mayor of Tempe, Arizona awarded King with a $25,000 grant to help with operations and growth.
Now he says being a king is all about having purpose, vision, and confidence. Learning from the babes.
So I know our producer, Aaron, has already gone online to purchase some of the swag there. I may have to follow suit because you know I love a good hat, and when I'm at home, I enjoy wearing a good hoodie, especially where it's cold here in Detroit.
This it is indeed, and then you're supporting this baby's vision and dream. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, for the full rundown on today's stories and much more, you can access Fox Soul's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. And don't forget to download the Fox Soul app. It's absolutely free, and you can catch up on any past Black Report episodes that you may have missed out on. We'd love for you to always join us.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about doing this weekend?
Staying in the house indoors. We've got some snow this morning, so there's a bit delay on everybody getting to work here in this particular region. We're in the Midwest, Detroit.
I mean, more than a little bit.
Yeah, and then it's supposed to taper off and then come on back throughout the weekend. So that in the pocket, you have to go and get your groceries, and fill your tank up, and run some errands, and then I lock down. Yeah. And I don't come back out till Monday when it's time to come back to Fox Soul's Black Report. What about you? Are you getting on a plane this weekend?
I am getting on a plane this evening, headed back to D.C. to check on some things, run some errands. You know, I lost a pair of glasses at the airport. If anybody saw this pair of purple tail glasses, I think I lost them in Atlanta. If anybody saw those glasses, can you please send me a note here at FOXSOUL?
They were made of marble and diamonds and platinum. So
they were not
I'm sure that they are long. They are long gone.
There you go. I'm just saying there may be a good Samaritan out there that has a pair of glasses out there, but I'm gonna go by the frame store and look and see what they got and just run a few errands.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah,
good for you. Again, you can always join us weekdays, 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. FOXSOUL's Black Report.
I also wanted to ask. Oh no, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna tell them, streaming. You got Samsung TV Plus. You got
all the things.
Roku.
All the things.
You were gonna say what?
But one of the things I wanted to mention to you earlier is I had a chance to watch the Chris Rock documentary last night.
You just
or the stand-up.
Oh, you just got
special.
a chance to watch it.
I just had a chance to watch it.
Well, you fooled us. All week long, it sounded like you watched it.
No.
But it was bits and pieces all across social media.
Well, I started watching it earlier this week and then I fell asleep.
Gotcha.
No diss,
okay.
Chris Rock. It wasn't you. I was just tired.
Your thoughts?
But then I watched the whole thing yesterday. I actually thought it was pretty good. I love some of the bits, some of the jokes that he touched on. But there was one story that he told in particular about his mom. Where he was talking about how proud he is of his daughters. He has a daughter that's in culinary school in Paris. And he remarked about how it's amazing that his mom, who grew up in, I think, North Carolina.
Georgetown, South Carolina.
She grew up in South Carolina.
Yeah.
His mom had told him the story that, when she grew up in the era of segregation, black folks, if you didn't have a black dentist, you couldn't go to a white dentist.
You know
where they had to go?
Yeah.
They had to go to the veterinarian. The veterinarian.
Yeah. So your thoughts,
right?
Your thoughts.
Right. And so, he talked about, his mom, being the son of somebody that came up during segregation in that time, who is now making millions and millions of dollars and is able to send his kid to culinary school in Paris. And so he was talking about his privilege, right? And Chris Rock knows that he's privileged, and he is not. He is unapologetic about it. And I don't think we necessarily see black folks of privilege that say that plainly. And so that's what he did.
Well, one day I want to be Chris Rock privileged.
Well, it's possible.
Oh yeah, anything's possible. He did it, and that's what that story was all about. Glad you got a chance to see it, like the rest of us.
That's right. Until next time, I'm Nicordelai Cortez.
I'm Courtney Hicks.
Stay lifted, y'all.
Have a safe weekend.
That's good.